Thank you.
It's purple.
When I was tapping into this group yesterday and asking for the most important download to come through, I had a really interesting one. And it started coming through today about 20 minutes before the session again. And it was, confidence is going to look different on every single person. So I know in my eye, or in my mind, when I think of confidence, sometimes I think of like the badass music I listen to and like someone who's just like decked out, gorgeous and like strutting their stuff. Like I picture confidence like that. But that doesn't mean everyone needs to fit that image to show that they're confident. It's definitely like one of the ways I channel my confidence, because I have a Leo moon. So I want the glamour, the pizzazz. Like when I'm in my confidence, that is how I show up. For this ritual, I almost pulled out my Hollywood witch dress because it's black and glittery and gold. And I was like, that's what I want to wear because I'm so confident right now. But then the clock was ticking and I was like, it's okay, whatever. Like, I'm not going to go put on my big dress right now. It was more important for me to set up all of our things. But for you, think about, start to cultivate that awareness. How does confidence look like on you? What is your unique expression of confidence? You can think back in your life to times where you felt really secure in yourself and ask yourself, like, how are you expressing yourself? How are you holding your body? How are you feeling like presenting yourself? What did you want around you, or what was around you? Did you talk differently? Did you think differently? And in your reflection, if you can't recall any times, moving forward, just have it in mind to be like, okay, next time I feel confident, I'm gonna do a little scan and pay attention to what's going on and what my expression of confidence is. Like I said, some people they do the glamour and it's like big, but some people, their confidence is more like the Queen of Swords, where they sit back in their throne and it's a very quiet, regal type confidence. And then there's a million other expressions of it too. So also, I was so excited, I just jumped right in, but thank you so much for being here, for showing up. I'm Calliope, and this is the Full Moon in Leo Confidence Healing and Activation event. So what even is confidence? You can drop in the chat if you want, like what you associate with confidence. My definition of confidence is feeling an inner security. It's something that's not tangible. It's just in you. It's this feeling of trust, of inner security, and just knowing that whatever happens, good or bad, you're going to be able to be yourself. You're going to be able to figure it out. You're going to be able to conquer it. Some people are saying being in your power, self-assurance matched with joy, no anxiety, not afraid to walk into a room full of people. Yes, I fully agree with that. And especially walking into a room full of people. It's that inner security of knowing if you walk into that room, you're going to be able to navigate it. You're going to be able to handle it. One person says, feeling my power. Yeah. And I feel like feeling your power comes from being true to your authentic self, being able to really see yourself. That's one of the reasons why I have a symbolic mirror here with us. So it's like, are you seeing yourself clearly? Is your reflection nice and clean where you can truly reflect? Because when you see yourself clearly, you're aware of your weaknesses and your strengths. And everyone has different weaknesses and strengths. And it's something to celebrate. having weaknesses is not a bad thing. When you're aware of them, you can get support and help in those areas. So it's like, oh, you know what? I don't feel confident about my graphic design skills, but I'm confident that I can find someone to help me with it. Or I don't feel confident starting a business. It's like, well, I feel confident that I can research about it and that I can get people to support me and I can outsource the areas that is not something I can learn about. And then equally looking at your strengths and maximizing them, putting more focus on them, designing a life that celebrates your strengths. When you're living a life where your strengths are always utilized, you're going to feel more confident because you feel competent in those areas. And then anywhere where you don't feel competent, experience. You just keep trying it. Scared to walk in a room because there's social anxiety, just keep walking into rooms. It's really hard. Like, let the anxiety be there, but keep showing up. And then over time, because you've done it so much, there is this confidence that starts to build from your experience, from feeling competent about what you're doing. So I just started to go into number 3 on your little workbook, which is see your strengths. See your strengths, work with your strengths. Design a life where your strengths are center stage. In your marketing, showcase your strengths. I was talking to somebody today and there's something, they really want to be an influencer and they're fearful of it. They've held themselves back from it because of the fear. And I asked them to tell me more about the fear. And they said, well, I'm not very high fashion. I don't want to be shallow. That's not me. And I was like, exactly. It's not you. So don't do that. If your weakness is fashion, don't showcase fashion. That's no big deal. These are your strengths from what I know about you. And I listed them out and I was like, lead with that. That's what an influencer would do. Like, lead with the stuff that's really authentic to you, lead with your strengths. And okay, so if we're all on Instagram, we know that reels are really popular right now. And we know that like dancing reels are very popular. But just because that's a trend, just because that's getting people results, if that's not your strength, there's no need to do it. If you want to try it, that's awesome. And like, experiment. But if it's just not your strength, not feeling intuitively called, there's no need to do it. Instead, you could be a leader and be like, okay, you know what? My strengths are like moody atmosphere and like doing like just a stoic face and like really good poetry. And then you can make a reel about that, even if other people aren't doing that, and see what happens. Because that's why creativity is cool. That's why people are into content, and you can just play on your strengths to make things work for you. So I'm doing these all out of order, but now I want to talk about number 2, which is using your voice. So what using your voice means is understanding what your authentic message is, understanding what your authentic voice in your head is. Because I'm sure you all know there's a lot in there. Like, there's a self-critic voice. There is a voice that's repeating something from your mom in the past. There is like your little kid voice. There's your lazy voice. There's your higher self voice. Like, there's all these different voices all the time that are speaking to you. And when you're struggling with confidence, it's usually because your insecure voice or your self-critic is talking the most. And so you want to do something, but the loudest voice in your head is like, but what about this? But what about that? Well, you're not good enough. Da 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 da. And that's really hard. It's really hard to move when you have a voice like that that's louder than everything else. So finding and using your voice for confidence has to do with the voice within, being really clear about who am I listening to in there? is that my higher self? Is that a cheerleader? Is that someone on my side? And this takes practice. I would recommend first trying to identify what's the voice that you hear the most, and then start to be discerning. Be like, is that one helpful? Do I like that one? And then speak over it. So I used to have a lot of fear voice. The fear voice was the loudest in my head, to the point where I could hardly go walk outside because I would be overwhelmed. And my therapist said it was agoraphobia. They're like, oh, you're scared of going outside, like whatever. And it was almost like, oh, that's just how you're going to be forever then. Because I would start to go for the doorknob and the voice would be like, bad things are going to happen to you. You're going to die out there. There's scary people. You're going to get kidnapped, like all of the things. And so I had to start speaking over it. And like, I would go outside and like just loudly, like mantras, being like, I am here. I am safe. I am confident that if a bad thing happens, I will be able to navigate out of it. I am confident if a bad person comes up to me, I will be able to walk away. I am confident that if something intense happens, like a shooting, like I can run the other way. So I just started talking over that voice, getting really loud with that voice. And now that's the dominant voice when I'm outside. And that's just one example. Also in business, it's like you're going to click go on that post and you might be thinking like, oh God, like is someone going to comment that they hate this? Is someone going to disagree with me? Is someone going to call me out? And you talk over that voice like, you know what? Someone's going to love this. This is going to speak to the right person. This is really fun and creative. I really like what I'm saying here. So identify what voice you're listening to and start to choose the new voice that you want to hear, and use repetition for what that new voice is going to tell you, what that new voice is going to support you with. And then with that, using your voice for confidence. That's the inner voice. But what about our external voice? Our external voice is speaking up for ourselves, putting our needs as something that's a priority, something that's important. So if someone asks you to do something and you don't want to do it, using your voice to say no is going to build your confidence. Or if there's something you do want to do and like the voice inside is like, oh, say no, I don't know, but you really want to do it, then like practice saying yes to things too. And that is going to build your confidence. Speaking your truth often is going to just add little blocks of confidence to your throne of confidence. Let's go over to number 4, trust your decisions. So kind of like using your voice, there's also your intuitive voice. I personally think that's the best one to have, is the loudest voice in your head, because it's always going to help you make good decisions. It's going to give you insight, help you navigate, and it's your cheerleader too. It totally is. So if you're really in tune with your voice and you understand your strengths and weaknesses, that's going to allow you to be a really good decision maker. Somebody who makes empowered decisions for themselves. And so I think we all probably relate to that feeling where you're like dying for like validation, and you want someone to like give you validation or give you permission. When you've really like taken the ownership of like, I'm going to trust my decision making, I'm going to be empowered in the decisions I make, I trust that I can make good decisions, then that's not going to happen often. And when it does, then it's a big deal. And it's okay, like gather my circle, gather my mentors, like gather the people that help me. Because then there's something you need a group support on, and that's awesome. But for day-to-day things, developing yourself as the main decision maker and trusting that is going to just skyrocket your confidence. You know what? I don't always do it alone. I actually use tarot to help me make decisions. So I even have a tool that I use to support my decision-making process. Another tool that we all have here, except for all the spirit guides watching, but one of the tools we have is our body. Your body is going to let you know what decision you should make. And learning to tune into the language of your body is going to help you make quicker decisions. Like if you're in a situation and you start to get a really bad stomach ache and you're really tuning into it, like, okay, did I eat bad sushi, or is this a signal from my gut? Like maybe I can't stomach something that's happening. I know I was working for a client for a very long time. And at the time they were my highest paid client by a lot. And every time I would step foot in their office, I would get a really bad stomach ache, just awful. And when I would leave, the second I was down the street, I was cured. And this had to happen over like a span of months, because at that point in my life, I wasn't very empowered with my decision making. I wasn't sure if it was the right decision to like let go of a high paying client. It was too scary. There's too many fears. I hadn't developed trust in everything yet, but I had this signal from my body that was trying to point me in the right decision. And now if I sense anything like that, I make choices and change like very rapidly. So I never have to stay somewhere wrong for me too long. So start to get aware of the language of your body and how it speaks to you. And that can be one of your tools for how you make empowered decisions. So let's go over to develop faith. That was the first one I put on this list. To me, confidence is equivalent to faith. I have faith and trust in me, in myself, in my brain's ability to process things, in my body's ability to, give me signals, in my connection to my intuition, and trusting that my intuition is giving me the right directions. I have trust in my path. I have trust in how things are unfolding. I have faith that I don't always know what's going on, but that everything is happening the way it's supposed to be happening. Now, that's a very spiritual approach to faith and trust. So some people are going to have a different thing that they feel faith in or trust in, or security in, and that's okay. As long as it works for you and gives you a sense of foundation to lean back on, then that's going to help you bring confidence into your life. There's also a phrase that's I love to use. So if you're not sure of something, it's like, let's say this was my first Zoom group thing ever, and I wasn't confident yet if I could do it. I could tell myself, like, instead of being like, oh, I don't know, I'm scared, and like, I feel insecure that I won't know how to lead this, I could tell myself, I am confident that the experience of doing this is going to help me for the next one. I feel like that phrase, I can sit on that and be like, okay, all right, let's make this happen. So you can play around with the way you're talking to yourself, and you can play around with the word confidence until you land on something where it's like, you know what? Yeah, I can sit on that. I feel like that's secure. I can trust in that. Like, I feel confident in my ability to figure out X, Y, and Z, or I feel confident that this will be a learning lesson, and that's really good for me to head towards. So then we have number 5, rewrite your narrative. This is something you can do over and over and over again. It's never just a one-time thing. I even recently had some epiphanies with a narrative I was telling myself, and I was like, oh my God, I can make this even bigger and better and fuel myself with more confidence with this new perspective. But start to bring awareness to how you think about your life story, how you think about your circumstances, or how you talk about your life story or your circumstances. And then ask yourself if there's a way, or like ask yourself just what's the energy there of it, of that narrative. The narrative I was sharing for a very, very long time was wrapped up in, now sometimes this offends people, but it's just true. It was wrapped up in this very like victimhood, because at that time I needed people to acknowledge like, yeah, something really bad happened to me. Like, I need help. Like, please acknowledge that this was hard and scary for me. So when I would share my story or think about my story to myself, it was really wrapped in this like helpless, like bad things happened to me, woe is me narrative. But when I started to look at it differently, and it was like, I was changing the victimhood to survivor. And I started to rewrite my narrative as like, yeah, these bad things happened, but I got through it. And this is how I handled it. And this is how I navigated it. And this is what I've learned from it. And this is how my life is going to be different moving forward. The narrative started to change into one that was more like a phoenix story, or like the hero's journey. And thinking it to myself, I started to actually feel more validated in what had happened, and more empowered about what had happened, and more confident about how I could move forward with the rest of my life. Instead of thinking like, oh, bad things happened to me in the past and bad things are going to just keep happening, I shifted from, whoa, I've had a lot of life experience, and I get to transform this and have a different polar opposite experience moving forward. And if something bad happens, I know how to navigate it. So I feel confident in whatever happens for the rest of my life. Because I'm aware bad things happen, but I'm also aware that I can handle bad things. I'm confident in my ability to do that. So a homework assignment for you guys, if you resonate with this, at some point, write down your life story, write down the narrative, and then ask yourself if there's a way where you can stay true to your story, but make it a more empowering perspective. Make it something that's going to fuel you with more confidence about who you are and your strengths and your abilities. So I am going to light our candle, and then we're going to turn the next 5 tips over to Spirit. We're going to pull some cards. Let's see, actually. You know what? I want to do the journaling first, because the tarot, based on what you guys journal about, might bring some immediate answers, which I think is very cool. So right now, I want you can get out your journal. You can also share this in the comments if you want to. But I want you to pick a fear, or write down a couple fears that you have. This can be in relation to anything, your personal life, your business, your love life, just a fear that's been coming up that has been, trying to punch your confidence down. And while you think of that, I'm going to light our candle. It's so nice to see everyone here. Okay, so now that you've written a few fears down, let's just pick one that you have on there. You can underline one of them. All right, now I want you to imagine that fear comes true. That fear comes true. So what would come true if that fear was real? And write that down. All right, so there's the big scary thing. There's the big fear that's come true. Here's your power statement. Now what? The fear came true, now what? Now, sometimes the first thing we think of is like, and now I'm dead. Or, like something really extreme, like, and now my business burns to the ground. Okay, so then be like, okay, and what else? And write that down too. And then again, ask, and what else? Now what? What else? And just start to write down what you would do now that that's come true. How would you navigate it? So for example, one of the ones I've worked through a lot, but this is just an example. I would like really have this fear that I was going to post something on Instagram and someone would come in and just like rip me to shreds in the comments, just really write this a hater comment. And it was a big enough fear that I was holding back on posting certain things, which in turn made my voice smaller. So it's harder for me to call in my soulmate clients in business. So it's kind of a big deal. Like I was like, I need to nip this fear in the butt. So I did this exercise. I was like, okay, now it comes true. Someone just writes a horrendous comment, rips me to shreds. Now what? Well, the first thought is like, okay, well, my heart is going to hurt. My energy is going to feel weird. And I'm going to be like, ah. And it's like, okay, now what? Okay, well, I know how to ground my energy. I know how to clear my energy. Now what? I can remove the comment. I can block the person. I can let it sit there. I can see if anyone ever comments on the message. And I actually did get a hater comment, and Kelsey just like wrote back to the person before I'd even saw it. She's on the Zoom with us right now. And then I started to think more creatively, and I was like, I wonder if I got a comment that's something I could screenshot and put in a story or a reel, and then give advice as if like my client had gotten this too, because I know my soulmates might have the same fear. So maybe I can use it as an example for other people. And then when I got to that, I was like, oh, now I kind of want a comment so I can have the opportunity to do that and like make it a thing, make a whole like content thing out of it. So then this brings me to the end. Once you find that solution that kind of brings you a sense of like, okay, then you can say, I am confident in my ability to handle it. Now, the one I gave you is kind of low stakes as an example. So if you have one that's higher stakes, where you can't find a good now what, let's talk about it at the end of this ritual. One person said in the comments that they have it or have one, so we can start there. And if any of you guys else wrote something where you're like, I don't have a now what that takes me to a confident shift, then we'll talk about it. And also you can set the intention that maybe the cards will answer in the next 5 tips for us too. But I think facing our fears head on and figuring out how we're going to navigate them is a really amazing confidence builder. I feel like some people take the law of attraction a little too literally and think that they can't play in the realm of that because it will attract it. But I think strategizing is different than like attracting something. I think strategizing how we're going to navigate situations gives us a better energy to attract what we are trying to call in. Okay, so let's ask Tarot for this group's energy and for everyone watching later. Ooh, what are some confidence tips? How can we cultivate confidence? How can we release insecurity? How can we release insecurity? Oh, wow, very interesting there. Security. Okay. So some of these are a little bit of repeats. So the first tip, we have Temperance reversed and the 5 of Wands reversed. So 5 of Wands reversed has to do with the inner conflict we're having, the different sides of ourselves that are battling it out for who has the most influence, who has the most just strength in making a decision. And then Temperance is showing like all of the cups being poured out, no balance, no moderation. So in terms of insecurity, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the voices in your head. Journal on the different sides of yourself that are battling it out, the different opinions that they're all kind of throwing in your face. And really look at them from an observational view where it's like, what of these opinions is really extreme? Like you can Google black and white thinking, because that's an example of just really extreme. Like it'll sound like you can never, or this always. So what opinions and thoughts and sides of you are just so extreme? And how is that pouring out all of your options, pouring out all your confidence, pouring out all of your energy, wasting your energy? So Spirit wants you to identify those parts of self. And those are the parts of self we're going to start really talking to. And talking to them, it doesn't mean fighting them or resisting them. It doesn't really help to be like telling yourself to like shut up or repress in an area. Having a conversation with those parts of yourself looks like being curious and being like, hey, what's your need? What do you need here? You're telling us that we can't do this. What is the need that you're trying to protect? This first card is Temperance reversed, and the other one's 5 of Wands reversed. So internal conflict that's creating extreme circumstances, feelings, behaviors. So talk to those sides of self. Be like, what are your needs? What do you need in the situation that's going to make you feel good? Getting curious, being like, where did you come from? So you tell me I can't post on Instagram. Because why? Oh, you're trying to protect me. When in my life have I needed protection against bullies? Oh, you're from that time in elementary school. Thank you for trying to protect me. I'm an adult now. This is a marketing thing now. I think I can handle it. I got it. Don't worry. You're not going to get hurt like that again. So that's kind of like a conversation with that side of myself. And hopefully it comes to, instead of a resistant place where they feel like they're getting shoved out and ignored, it's like, oh, okay, you're going to protect me and still do what you want to do. Okay, I'll let you try that out. So talking to the sides of self, getting them all seen, heard, and on board so they're not fighting themselves and not going to extremes. That's one of your tips from Spirit. Now this other one, we have 3 of Pentacles and the reverse 9 of Wands. So when you feel like giving up, when you feel like you have no more energy, no more willpower, this is really interesting in this card. You see that wolf about to attack him? So if you feel like the wolves are out to get you, call on your team of people that support you. This can be literal people, and these can be your spirit guides too. I personally am like very in the belief of my spirit team. And so like I consult them for help. And then if I can't get the support I need from just that, then I reach out to my real life support system. For example, Kelsey's on this call. She is one of my people I tell everything and talk to. So when you're feeling really insecure and you can't summon up the ability to find confidence for yourself, get your team to help build you up. And it's really important to know who the right people are for this. Like really analyze, like, are these my people? Do they lift me up? And am I able to lift them up too? Do they see my vision? Are they able to help me go there? And this can come in the form of so many different types of people. It's just that energy of like, yes, they help me feel like I'm progressing and building forward. So don't be scared to ask for help. That's going to build confidence. You don't have to do things all by yourself. Okay, so this is like one of the juiciest ones on the table. We have the Moon card and the Death card. So building confidence is allowing yourself to go through the process many times where you really see who you are and who you're not. Put yourself back in the place that you're meant to be in. Really shed that skin and step into that new identity, and then realize it's going to happen again. And be okay with that. Be excited for that. We don't know when it's going to happen, but your skin is always shedding. There's always this moment in time where you're like, I was howling at this moon and it felt really good. And now it's just not, I don't know, it's just not feeling so good anymore. And it's that ability to stop and look inward and be like, whew, what are the new waters I need to dive into? Who is the new version of me that is coming through? And then shedding that skin so you can be that new version of you. When you do that process and allow yourself to do it and feel okay doing it, being okay that you're changing and transforming, that you're going through deaths and rebirths, that's going to really, really build your confidence a lot. And another message that's coming through is sometimes we feel bad about doing that because of the people who are involved. So someone who might be your Three of Pentacles team one day, at another point in your stage, in your cycle, in your life, it's like, this just isn't the person anymore. And like being okay with them being part of the skin that's shed, changing the dynamic with them somehow, really allowing whatever needs to change along with you. So then the fourth, reverse Lovers and reverse Ace of Swords. So building your confidence comes to two things. One, the self-talk that you're having, the relationship you're having with yourself in all ways, mind, body, heart, and soul. How is that relationship? And are you communicating in an effective way in that relationship to yourself? I've said this before with some of the people on this call, but the 5 love languages, Google it if you don't know what it is. That's very centered around the love languages we have with other people. It has to do with like physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, etc. But if you turn that around and look at it for yourself, how do you use those love languages with yourself? One of my love languages is quality time. So when I don't love myself, I neglect myself. Or like an act of service, when I am not confident in myself, when I'm not loving myself, I don't do stuff for myself, like clean the house or make food. I withdraw that kind of love. So start to become aware with yourself. How are you communicating love to yourself? How are you communicating in a relationship with your own self? And you can start to heal that. And as you heal it, inner security and trust becomes a byproduct, which funnels into confidence. Now, beyond that, the relationships you have with other people and how they're communicating with you. Really be aware of who you're letting talk to you often, who you're allowing to be around you often, the relationships you're holding, the relationship dynamics you're holding. This is like one of the more painful ones to face. I was in a relationship before, and based on my experience, I thought it was a good, normal relationship for me. But I would talk about my business. I would talk about my passions, and they were like, can you stop? And they would like shut it down. Now, everything else was like, okay. So I didn't see that as big as I should have. And then, of course, that relationship ended. Not because I was like, oh, you're like, it wasn't because of me. But later I got in another relationship and I was really like scared to talk about my business. I was like, oh, it's a burden if I talk it. Like that was the belief system I had at the time. And so they kind of coaxed it out of me one night and I started talking and I just had passion coming out of me and I was just so into it. And they were like, and this is one of our early dates, and they were like, whoa. And I got scared because I was like, oh crap, they're going to tell me to shut up. And they were like, whoa, you're so hot right now. They're like, Tim, keep talking. And like, that was one of those moments where I was like, oh my goodness, I have surrounded myself with the wrong people up until this moment. Like, this is what it feels like. And that was a huge confidence booster. Huge. Because a lot of confidence does come from within, but if you have the right mirrors around you, if you have the right people reflecting back to you, your confidence is going to magnify. Instead of having someone mirror my inner critic, being like, stop. You don't want to talk about that. You can't have a business. I had the person mirroring back the part of me that was like, hell yeah, you can have a business. Hell yeah, you're hot when you talk about your passions. So look at the people around you and ask yourself, what are they mirroring from you, within you? And do you like that? Do you want that mirror? Or do you need to adjust the size of that mirror? We can't get rid of everyone who's in our life, but like, if you had a wall of mirrors, maybe they could be a little teensy one that you don't look into that much. And you're just like, okay, hi. And then you look at all the bigger mirrors. You make sure you have the better reflections. Okay, so last one here on the table, and then we're going to do a little candle blessing. So let's see. We have Strength reversed, 9 of Swords reversed, and 3 of Pentacles reversed. So it's kind of hitting home that point over and over about like, be smart about who you're tapping into as your support team. There are good people and there are not good people for you in relation to your confidence. And I'm getting the download to notice what fear or what dream, repetitive dreams you've been having, reoccurring dreams that are like scary or have a fear involved, and start to use that. Okay, it's going to sound very strange, maybe, but yeah, the cards are reverse Strength, 9 of Swords reversed, and 3 of Pentacles reversed. Okay, so this might seem strange, but if you remember your dreams, start to become aware if there's a reoccurring dream that is kind of on the more distressful side. And I want you to write it down every time you have this dream. And I want you to really analyze the dream, analyze what the symbols are, how, like the different forms that it takes, if there's changes to it, the emotions you feel in it, who's involved. Just start to really like, be like, all right, this is the dream I have been having, like make it a focus. And I want you to use it as a benchmark. And then work on your confidence with all these other skills, and even just this ritual, what it's going to initiate for you energetically. And I want you to watch that dream evolve and use it as a benchmarker for when you overcome that fear. The dream is going to reflect how you overcome the fear. And that's just an intention you set. And then you just, pay attention and write down the dreams. So I'll give you a concrete example really quickly. Forever, I had dreams of tidal waves, always the same. Big giant tidal wave would come over my head. I was dead, and then I would wake up. So then I started my journey of therapy and like some confidence building. This is before my spiritual journey. And the dream started to evolve to me grabbing onto something, but then the wave would come. But I was trying to grab hold of things. And it was reflecting how in real life I was like, I was going to therapy. I was like trying some new things. I was trying to hold on to something to secure me. And then I moved because I got too scared to live in a city, going back to that agoraphobia thing. So I moved to a small town. So the dreams evolved where the tidal wave was coming and I was trying to climb up a cliff. So I was trying to get away from the fears. I was trying to rise above them. Then I started my spiritual healing journey, and the dream evolved to, what was the next step? I think it was me holding on to people's hands, but then we'd both go under. Then it evolved to me jumping into the water. Like the tidal wave would come, and instead of running or anchoring, I would like run towards it and like go within it. Because on the spiritual journey, like you're facing your fears. So that's how the dream started evolving. And then one day I had the dream and I was on a boat and we were above the waves and I was on a boat. And now the dream doesn't happen anymore. So pick a dream that you have that's representing a fear, an insecurity, and use it as an anchor and let your subconscious communicate to you how you're working through that insecurity through the evolution of the dream. The one I just described took like 3 years. So maybe you'll get faster than that, but it is very encouraging to be like, this reoccurring thing is starting to have some changes in it. It's representing all the changes in your subconscious, because that's where all the true change occurs. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to do the candle blessing now. If you want to hop off after it, because you have other things to do, that's totally cool. If you want to stay on and ask me specific questions and have a discussion, that's awesome too. So let's see. So drop in the comments some things that you want me to bless into the candle. I have some ideas, but if there's anything specific you want, let me know. We are going to burn away insecurity. We're going to light the fire of our confidence. So while I'm doing this, you can meditate on how it looks. You can journal. There's some affirmations in the workbook I sent. So if you want to say the affirmations while I'm doing the blessing, that's another good way to utilize this time. Okay. So I bless that everyone present is able to identify the root causes of their insecurity. I call in that our fire of confidence is going to burn so bright that the fears burn away and transmute with it. I'm calling in for this group that their efforts towards confidence shows up in more ability to market, to do their services, to speak their truth, to set boundaries, and make important changes in their lives. I bless that everyone present is going to find joy with moving forward and find joy with riding the waves of uncertainty. We had a lot of black smoke on that one, really burning that up. So if there's any other blessings you want with the candle, let me know. May this full moon illuminate what you're ready to let go of and help you shine as the star that you are. May this fire burn away any stagnation and stuck energy. May all the women present and watching find the confidence they need to do the things they're meant to do.